I'm going to talk about rhythm and intonation in this video. And basically what that is what word to stress. And you want to stress the important words. This is very important. Um, if you stress the important words, it makes it easier to listen to you because it's the normal part of English. So um, it just makes it easier um, if you put stress on the important words. And it's also a powerful way to get people to understand that what you're saying is important. You will sound enthusiastic about what you're saying. You will sound interested in what you're saying, which will help other people to understand that what you're saying is interesting or important. So this is actually a quite powerful thing, and if you don't do it, it makes it people will fall asleep listening to you if you don't put some stress. Every sentence has at least a couple words that are important. You could be reading the most boring, the user manual to your car. I don't know. Think of the most boring thing that you can read, and there's still going to be stress on the important words. If read by a native speaker, where there's still going to be rhythm and intonation, and even the most boring thing you can think of. Okay, so now what we want to do is take the most stressed syllable of the important words and make that syllable, stretch that syllable out, hold it a little bit longer, and have it at a higher pitch. Okay, so I'm going to start reading this text. We can also use special things called functions. So the word also is one of the stressed words. But it has two syllables. We can also, and the first syllable is the one that we want to put stress on. We can now notice I'm not stressing the words we or can. I'm making we just long enough to hear that E sound, the notorious E. But I'm not having it. We can having it at a low pitch and not really taking a lot of time. I can make it long, but I'm not making it long. We can also so practice saying that. We can also la la. We can also use special things. Special. So the first syllable of special. We can also use special things called functions. We can also use special things called functions. Functions is the most important word in that sentence. It's the whole purpose of that sentence is to introduce functions. We can also use special things called functions. Functions. We want to put lots of stress on the word functions. That's a very important word. That's the most important word in that sentence. We can also use special things called functions. Functions. You can have that. That's the first syllable. Functions. Have it at maybe even a higher pitch than also and special. Functions. We can also use special things called functions. Now, the guy in the video that I'm taking this from, he, if I remember correctly, he puts a bit of space between some of the words, which is another way of adding some additional stress to make it even more clear what the important words are. We can also use special things called functions. A function, these are all three of these were two-syllable words where the stress was on the first syllable. that's a coincidence. It doesn't happen that way every time. It's kind of random. That's just, yeah, don't get used to doing it. It's not always going to be the first syllable. So, okay. And here we have the word function again. A function is basically just a little block. Okay, so put stress on the first syllable of function. A function is basically, I'm putting some stress on the word basically. Basically, and it's the first syllable again. That's just a coincidence. A function is basically, a function is basically, hold that sound, basically, hold that a little bit longer than the other sounds. A function is basically just a little block of code. Code is an important word. A function is basically just a little block of code. Now that's only one syllable, but so the whole word is one syllable. Hold it nice and long and at a higher pitch. A function is basically just a little block of code that we can run. A function is basically just a little block of code that we can run. A function is basically just a little block of code that we can run. You might put stress on run. I'm not putting stress on run. A function is basically just a little block of code that we can run, and it'll perform, a function is basically just a little block of code that we can run, and it'll perform. I'm putting a bit of stress on it'll, and it'll perform. It, to me, it looks like an unimportant word, but actually it can represent something that's important. So sometimes the little words like that actually do get stressed because it's referring to something else that might be important. Actually, it probably will be important, whatever it's referring to. A function is basically just a little block of code that we can run, and I'm putting a little bit of stress on that. It's a little higher, and and putting a little bit more, and also make those louder also, not just holding them longer, but also louder. And it'll perform is just a little block of code that we can run, and it'll perform a specific operation for us. Now, I had to check, because the word perform is an action. That's a verb. It's an action, which usually they get stressed, but I'm not putting very much stress on that one in this sentence. Instead, I'm putting stress on operation. And it'll perform a specific operation for us. Because an operation is also an action, even though it's a noun in this case. But that's the important thing here. It'll perform a specific operation for us. So operation is actually, and it'll perform, I'm not putting stress on the word perform, and it'll perform a specific operation for us, but I'm definitely putting stress on operation. Operation, 4 syllables, and I'm stressing the third syllable. Operation, that the third syllable is the one that gets the most stress in that word, and that's an important word. It'll perform a specific operation for us. So make it a little higher. Operation. A little higher. Hold it nice and long and make it louder. Make sure everybody can hear that vowel basically. Operation in the word operation. It'll perform a specific operation for us. A function is basically just a little block of code that we can run, and it'll perform a specific operation for us.